Hello and welcome to Grocer Pod. My name is Sean Kosednar. This week I'm joined in the studio by Michael Pursell, Executive Director of Bakery, Deli, and Food Service here at AWG. Food Service Week was February 5th through the 9th, and who better to talk to than Michael? But before we get to him, I wanted to remind you to please subscribe to Grocer Pod. Subscribing means new episodes will be downloaded for you each week. You can find Grocer Pod on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform you use. Thanks for joining me today, Michael.
Absolutely, Sean. It is a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So why don't you start off by telling me what is Food Service Week and what is AWG doing to celebrate?
Yeah, no, happy to. And I just got to comment a little bit because obviously the Chiefs just won the AFC Championship game, right? And the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl, which obviously everybody in Kansas City is pretty excited about that. But this is my first podcast, so it only takes me back to the Jason and Travis Kelce podcasts that are very popular right now. So I just had a flashback. So I got a charge out of it. So looking forward to this. But yeah, the Pride in Food Service Week. So it's kicking off February 5th through the 9th. And what it is, it's really an opportunity to celebrate and acknowledge all food service workers, whether it be retail, whether it's non-commercial, whether it's commercial in the restaurant industry. It's just an opportunity to recognize people and the hard work and everything they put into it every day to make that business successful for obviously the customers on the other end. So it's just a way to say thank you. So for all of the members, and they have tons of food service people on the move there. It's just a nice way to celebrate and recognize them.
Absolutely. There are just tons. I mean, I know that when we've gone into stores to do web blasts and things, I just see all of the things that they're doing. And it is pretty impressive, the breadth of all the different stuff they're doing. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the team behind Bakery, Deli, and Food Service? You got quite the squad.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we have a great team, and I have the pleasure of working and leading them, and I'm proud to do so. So the way that we're organized is that we have some folks at the corporate office here in Kansas City, and then we are flanked by our division teams as well. So there's usually a tremendous amount of collaboration that we partner with together in order to take care of our members, right? So when you look at the corporate team, there's kind of a couple key pillars of that. One, Wendy Pale on our team kind of heads up all of our promotions. So all the great promotions that come out to the members, be it clips or web blast or special features. She helps drive all that for us in terms of bringing value to the members. David Villanueva on our team, he's our category manager for the group. So he's working a lot with our vendor community. He's working a lot with our member community and kind of looking at the business and looking for opportunities and gaps, and then helping plug that with programs that our members can benefit from. And then the third pillar of it is our buying team. Our buying team is led by Tyler Robinson, and he's flanked by Charity Etherton, who's our senior buyer. And then we have a handful of buyers here at corporate office that actually buy for all the divisions. And I would be remiss not to include our admin support team. We have a couple folks there, and they do a tremendous job and kind of hold us all together more often than not. But like I said, it's a really big collaboration between us and then the divisions where we have fresh directors. We'll have a sales manager. We'll have some specialists involved, and then some associate support as well. So we've got a fantastic team, and we're nimble, and I think we do a very good job.
You mentioned Wendy and the web blasts. That's usually how I stay up to date with what's going on in your department, because I do make those for you, but we haven't done one in a while. So why don't you tell me some of the things that are going on in Bakery and Deli? Like what's new? What are you guys working on?
Yeah, well, my agent is trying to renegotiate a deal with you, but you seem to be, no, I'm only kidding. But no, hey, listen, I absolutely love doing the web blast with you, and we need to get back into that more often. And David and I have chatted about that. The challenge is just competing priorities, right?
Absolutely.
So we need to get back into it. We've got a couple things planned coming up. We had a couple promotions released this week, actually, but we didn't necessarily have the video component of it. But it's certainly something we're doing. The key thing right now is the innovation showcase that we're preparing for.
Absolutely.
So that's usually a pretty big lift. And as you can see here, we don't have a super big team. So we are nimble, and we have to go to wherever the priorities are. So right now we're trying to get that set up for success. So it's a success for our members. And then once we kind of get that moving, then we'll be flipping back and doing some more. Because listen, we've got several strategic initiatives that we're kind of driving for this year, right? And when you look at last year, our department and the members, we had year-over-year unit growth, right? So our department grew close to 3% in units year over year. Wow. Which was fantastic, right? And I'm very proud of the team for that. And so I want to repeat that this year, especially given the inflation and the pullback with the consumers and share of stomach and competition. I kind of pride myself on that, and we're going to shoot for it again this year. So we've got some work cut out for us, though.
Can you give the members a little sneak peek of what they might experience at the showcase from your department?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got, I want to say we probably have about 30 vendors in total that are going to be there. We've got some new vendors that haven't been there in the past. So we're excited to have them on board. And then we're also being joined by IDDBA this year, the International Dairy, Deli, Bakery Association, which is fantastic because I think they bring a ton of thought leadership. And they're also doing a learning lounge session for us as well. So hopefully our members that are especially focused on deli and bakery participate in that, because I think it's going to be a slam dunk. It's going to be a great opportunity.
What can you attribute to some of that growth from last year? What were members doing that allowed you guys to be so successful?
Yeah, I think some of it has to do with, just the key initiatives of last year and the things that we were really charged with driving, right? So one of those things was expanded food service, right? So if you look at deli as a whole, like if you look at that 3% that we grew in units, bakery was about flat, but we were about 5% up in deli. So most of that growth came from deli. And when you look at the deli, it came in a couple particular pockets, right? So, grab and go pre-slice continues to grow for us. Charcuterie and specialty cheese continues to grow for us. But food service is really where the big growth is coming. And when you look at the industry as a whole, that prepared foods is where the thrust is coming from. As a matter of fact, just this past year, food service now represents more than half of all deli sales in the industry, right? So it's a $46 billion industry, and food service is $25 billion of that. So it's clipped that since COVID, right? Because COVID, restaurants shut down and everybody started flooding the grocery stores, which is a great opportunity, great time for our members, right? So we were just doing fantastic things during that time. But people were searching out food service, right? And now that people are getting back in the work and they have hybrid schedules, they're still looking for food service, and within our restaurants now, you're starting to see the inflation hit the restaurants. You have over the last, I would say probably 3 or 4 months. But in my opinion, coming from the restaurant industry, there's always a lag, right? So retail businesses usually get the inflation right away. And then restaurants, I find, it usually takes like a 9-month window before it starts to hit their menus. Right. So you're seeing that now. So our members should be ripe for that. And I think you saw that last year in prepared foods. And we're going to continue to drive that this year, too, because it's growing coming out of 23 and it'll continue to grow in 24 as well.
What's the quick pitch to somebody, a member retailer that, has some prepared foods, but really hasn't, dived all the way in? What should they be doing in 2024 to expand those offerings? Yeah,
that's a great question, Sean. I would say, hey, listen, just to be in the game is step one, right? So if you have limited food service, get involved. Now, food service can mean a lot of different things, right? It could be ready to heat, ready to cook, ready to eat, right? Okay. So, and there's multiple ways to do that, right? So a very simple way to execute is just grab and go meals. Right. So I'll give you a great example. So last year we rolled out a program with Innovation, right, which is Asian food. It comes in a kit with fried rice and sauce, and it all comes in one package. Right. So for the member, you don't have to cook anything. You're just pretty much assembling it out of the case, and you're able to build these very finite individual meals or a little bit more of a family meal to offer to the customer. Right. So it's very easy to execute. And it gets them in the game with some Asian food right out of the gate, right? So it's very easy to execute. On the flip side of that, if you have a hot bar or something like that, it works great in the hot bar as well. So some of our members have different hot bar concepts, and they have individual station concepts, and the gamut is pretty wide amongst all of our members, right? And some of our smaller independent stores, a lot of times our food service acts like the local restaurant in some of our communities. So it's a fabulous opportunity for them to get engaged in this, and it should be easy, good sales for them to pick up.
Yeah, I think the gamut of the offerings is really the most interesting part, because when I hear food service, I think, oh man, we're going to have people like back there making the food and serving the food and bringing people up and all that. And that's a lot of people and a lot of space. But when really, like, no, the kits can be sent to you, and then you can just have them there waiting in the cooler, and people can come pick them up, and that can work as your food service offerings. And so it doesn't have to be the super in-depth thing. It can. There's some really like low stakes way of really driving up some sales. Yeah,
no, you're right. And hey, listen, at the end of the day, we're continually pushing the vendors to go this way, right? Because we know labor is tough to come by these days, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can't necessarily allocate a lot of labor in the back of the house so much. So we're very mindful of that. So we're really pushing a lot of the vendors to come with, and the technology has improved quite a bit, where you're able to get some really great tasting foods coming in, where maybe 10 years ago, I couldn't necessarily say that, right? So the food quality is improving, right? And then on the flip side, also on the labor end of it, you don't have the skilled labor. Right. So if you're going to have skilled labor, you're going to have to pay for that, which drives up your labor cost. So the fact that these are pretty simple to execute. Any person can come in and pretty much assemble these with minimal skill in the back of the house in the kitchen. So that really helps out our members and helps us get in the game faster.
I think the food quality is definitely something to hit on, because you're right. It wasn't that long ago that like, oh, I'm going to go to the grocery store and get lunch. Like not many people are doing that. If you have other options, the quality wasn't there, but the quality is there now. So are there any things that you suggest our members do to like highlight that and to draw in customers and show them like just how good the food is?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. I think the interesting thing, and it's a paradigm shift, I think, right? Because, I think when I look at our grocery stores, I always start at the front. Right. So I think as our members think about that business and how do you capture more business, right? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner meal part, right? So part of it is thinking like a restaurant as well. And I think sometimes we're naturally challenged because, okay, when you go into a grocery store, you got to fight the parking lot, right? Mm-hmm. You got to get a park, and then you got to walk in, and then you got to go find the kitchen or the deli. Right. Mm-hmm. More often than it's not within the first 20 feet of you walking in the front door. So now you're trekking back to that area. So what we have going against us is a little bit of the inconvenience factor, right? Mm-hmm. Where restaurants have a little bit more of a convenience factor to go in and go out. But we generally have good quality food. We have great pricing, right? We have great service. But we just have to figure out how do we overcompensate for some of the things that we are naturally challenged with, but knowing we have something to offer. Right. And great example. A lot of our members do rotisserie chicken. Right. So it's great to put that rotisserie chicken with a couple sides and biscuits or what have you. And then the key thing is, I think, is to show the competitive pricing of that. Mm-hmm. Right. Because I don't think a lot of times we take credit for the things that we're doing. Because you can get, here in Kansas City, you can get a price chopper chicken, a couple sides, and et cetera, and you're in the game for $20, right? But if you go over to KFC, you're going to drop $30, right? Mm-hmm. So that whole price value proposition, I think there's an opportunity to play on that more in order for us to drive more traffic. We're all working to get there, right? But I think that's important to get out in front of the consumer.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that people know before you get out of here?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is just to kind of recap some of the things that we're working on this year. So we talked a lot about expanding food service, right? So that's obviously a pretty important thing for us. So as we enter 2024, we ended up launching a new program called with Del Foods, which is more of a Hispanic Salvadorian cuisine. So that product is out there and it's available for members to take advantage of. Innovation we talked about. They also have a Hispanic line that we're fully supporting and endorsing as well, which is a great product quality. And then we also have an Italian program that's coming out probably Q2 timeframe, probably after Innovation Showcase. So that's big for us. Take and bake pizzas, we're continuing to push. We've got some new things coming out with Pro Food Systems that should drive some good sales for our members. And then we also started to dabble in seafood this year as well. Yeah. So actually right now our web blast that came out this week included Beaver Street fisheries. And with that, we have some shrimp and some tilapia fillets that are par fried and ready to go. And they're great tasting items, right? And we didn't really have that product in our portfolio before, but from a food service, from prepared foods, it just gets our members in the game in those areas. So that'll be continuing to be a focus for us this year. Grab and go pre-slice, which I talked about and I shared, our charcuterie and specialty cheese growth. We had great exit speed coming out of last year. We'll continue that this year. On the bakery front, to switch gears a little bit on the bakery side, we're really encouraging donuts this year, right? Because donuts grew immensely last year in bakery. Wow. It was one of the big leaders. So we're really pushing that to say, hey, if you're not in the donut business, it's good to get in the donut business, right? And we've got quite a few vendors that our members can partner with to make sure that they're selling donuts, because that's something that's growing year over year.
That's amazing to me that donut, something as seemingly old as donuts is growing this year. That if you would have given me 5 guesses, I wouldn't have guessed it. Yeah, but that's amazing. What do you attribute the growth to?
Man, that's a great question. I don't have an answer for that one, but just from an industry standpoint, every period I look at the industry data pretty closely, and I monitor with the team, like what's growing, what's not growing, right? And then we mirror it into our categories, and David helps drive this on our team to say, okay, what's growing and what's declining on our side, and then let's match it up, right? Because if we see things that are neutral on our side, but in the industry they're growing, my question is why? Why aren't we growing at the same rate? Because I want to try to pride ourselves to grow at a faster pace than what the industry is, right? That's kind of the goal at the end of the day. So we do this every period. Every month we look at it, we review, and then we try to, kind of arm our division teams and our sales managers with some data and some talking points that they can help with our members to kind of share insights with them to say, hey, here's an opportunity. If I don't see donuts going on, we may need to get you in the donut business. Here's a couple manufacturer partners that we partner with that have a great product line, right? And may have premium, we may have value, and there's different tiers within that. So this way, the member can identify the right product offering for them that kind of makes the most sense.
That's great. I know that you guys are doing tons of work for the members. Michael, thanks for joining me today. And thank you all for listening. Again, please like and subscribe to Grocer Pod so you can automatically hear all the latest things going on around AWG. And until next time, this has been Sean Kosednar for Grocer Pod.